LDG Electronics provides state-of-the-art antenna tuners for every amateur need. An LDG desktop tuner works automatically with nearly any station and up to 1,000 watts. LDG power tuners are ideal for portable and mobile use as they consume almost no current and can be powered by internal batteries that last up to a year. LDG tuners are backed by our 2-year, fully transferable warranty and our legendary customer service, the best in the industry. Visit us on the web at ldgelectronics.com.
And now, from Grid Square Echo Mike 48, this is 100 Watts and a Wire.
Well, hello and welcome to 100 Watts and a Wire. My name is Christian. My call sign is Kilo Zero Sierra Tango Hotel. On this episode, we're going to be talking about HOAs. Yep, HOAs and maybe some stealth-type antennas that you can look at if you are indeed in an HOA. And welcome to our friends who are joining us live today. If you're our podcast listening audience, you know on Saturday mornings, 9 o'clock, you can join us for the live show. Get involved in the chat. Those who are here today, question for you. Have you ever lived in an HOA or living in an HOA today? If so, type in HOA in the chat and we'll take a look and see how many people are actually dealing with this problem here in our live audience. So that's what we'll be addressing today. Going to bring in Sidecar Steve here. He's with us, W7UDI. And Steve, we have got, we're going to get into some antennas, some situations. We've been doing some research behind the scenes to try to help people in HOA situations. And we'll be talking about that in just a little bit. Now, a week or two ago, we talked about your situation in the Pacific Northwest with snow removal. Can I tell you, we got 8 to 10 inches of snow, right? And many of you are going, oh, wow, that's a snow thing. That's maybe a day and a half, right? This thing has knocked out St. Louis and counties for, I don't know, this is the morning, I guess, of the 4th day. People are just being able to get around now. So between like COVID, no budgeting for snow removal, not paying enough money for these people to do the hard work that they are doing. They are doing a great job. There's just not enough of them. It shut down this city for like 4 days. We're talking 8 inches of snow, you know, and man, that's what we've been dealing with. So we've gone completely from, yay, snow day, to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And now it's just an icy kind of... It's an icy situation right now because we got rain first, snow, but it's nothing against the workers. It's just that they're doing a great job and they're working 12-hour shifts, you know, and they just didn't budget for it.
And they're understaffed.
Yeah.
That's why they're working 12-hour shifts. They're understaffed. I don't know what St. Louis has done, but here in the state of Washington, they instituted the vaccine mandated for the state employees. So our DOT has lost quite a few drivers that went out and plowed the state roads. And so they fell behind. So, yeah, there's a combination of everything that's causing all this COVID, as you pointed out. I don't know about funding so much, but it's the lack of people.
Well, you're in a place where they know it's going to snow and drop on their head. I think here, for one, we're in the middle, and you would think we're surrounded by these states that get the systems, and sometimes we do. But there was a while where we didn't get any snow, and we had some pretty mild winters. So I think, and I don't have the data to back it up, but I think that it seems that they have skimped a little bit on putting snow removal in the budget in the cities. And I'm talking like it's shut down. 8 inches should close you probably a day, maybe 2, but 4 days, you don't. It just shows you don't have enough horses, and the ones that are working too hard for not enough. So
exactly, they're just kind of banking on, we're just going to have a mild winter, and it's city of Seattle does the same thing. They would go through kind of a dry spell for quite a few years, and then they kind of change the budget. Well, why are we going to spend so much money for all this snow removal and materials, and they're just still piled up in the salt shed? So let's just cut the budget back and put it somewhere else. And lo and behold, here comes a dump, and they're unprepared.
It's I don't know. It's just kind of what it is, and part of it is like, hey, it's winter. We know it's winter. Rah rah, it's winter. It's going to snow. But man, if you're not prepared for it, I've taken trips to different cities during snow events, and was just shocked at how clean and quickly, because there's money on the line. There's a business, and they want you to move traffic and buses and. Anyway, so that's kind of what we're dealing here. Game time here. We're sitting at 12 degrees. That's the other side of this, is that there's no melt in sight until we can get up at a certain temperature. The sun did come out and helped out a little bit, but not quite enough. So that's what we're dealing with. Hopefully your snow removal situation. And I know people that live in more rural areas, say in the South or Oklahoma and some of these places, I don't know. They tend to depend on their neighbors more. They help each other out. They're bartering for goods. They don't get so sketched out. Up here, it's like, wow, I don't know. Like, what are we going to do now? What are we going to do? Well, you saw it coming. Like, it wasn't a surprise storm. But I'm not trying to indict the city of St. Louis. But boy, oh boy, other cities would have had 8 to 10 moves so business could move. And unfortunately, we've been stuck. And this is probably the first day where my wife can go out and get on passable roads. And some of them are going to be still sketchy. Just nutty. Anyway, enough of that rant. I was going to drop some news in, but I'll do that later. Just a news headlines, rip and read type of stuff. We can do that if we have time later. There are a couple of forms. Now, if you're with us joining, people hate filling out forms, but it's a really efficient way to get us the information. Say you're shy and you don't want to type something up, or you think it'll be missed in the chat. You can always send a comment or a question to us through these forms. Okay, so we have them at our social media places. They're in the description of this video. So if you have a question or a comment, or you're struggling with something, we'd like to hear about that. And I put the call out, and I don't know if, Scotty, you can grab that from our description in the YouTube video and drop that form in. If not, I can grab it as we go. One that came in, though, and I've been really interested to see what hams are struggling with, and maybe we can help. Maybe we can't help, but maybe we can at least talk about it and set you off in a good situation. So today's show is inspired by a guy called Richard. His call sign is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Romeo Sierra Alpha. Richard sent a note in. He said he would like some ideas with a portable vertical antenna that he could use in his backyard, because he lives in an HOA that forbids antennas. Okay, so that is sort of the genesis of our show today, is to start talking a little bit more about that. And the question for the chat, of course, are you in an HOA, or have you ever been in an HOA? And we can kind of see, engage. Maybe you can chime in on this sort of stuff too. So Richard, here you go. And we've also put this question out on our Facebook. Yeah, I won't put any questions on the YouTube. And so we can talk a little bit about it. Steve, have you ever been in an HOA situation? Have you ever had to kind of deal with modifying your radio operations because of it?
Well, the last neighborhood we lived in was in an HOA, but they didn't have any any restrictions to speak of as far as radio antennas. They spelled out basically C-band. That's how old the HOA was. They talked about the old, do you remember the big 3-meter C-band satellite antennas before we got the latest? They kind of spelled that out, but when it came to any of my amateur radio antennas, it wasn't an issue. Actually, you couldn't see it, so that's why it became pretty much a non-issue. But so for me personally, yes, in an HOA, but no, not in an HOA. And fortunately here, it's truly a non-HOA, so I don't have to deal with that. But I've visited like my mom's house, and she's, in Peoria, Arizona. It's truly HOAs everywhere.
Yeah.
And
I understand they have some benefits. I mean, they may cut the grass and all this sort of stuff, and you think, okay, well, I'm in an HOA, and some of it is good, but for hams are like, it makes people cuss. It makes them just straight up curse when they can't.
I've looked at what would I do in a house like my mom's, just typical, suburban home in an HOA, and thought, okay, putting an antenna along the eaves and like a simple dipole and wrapping it around, and just simple things like that. Even throwing up a temporary vertical on the back patio and things like that. So I mean, there's multiple ways of overcoming it. Probably string dipoles inside the attic space. I know I've worked, a number of people have had that situation where they've had antennas inside their attic space, and it's worked quite well. They've ran into a few other challenges, but for the most part, it worked pretty good.
Okay. If you have a question and you're here visiting with us live on the live stream, put a Q in front of it. If you have a question of us, it doesn't need to be about HOAs. We'll get to a Q&A section later on in the hour, but if you put a Q next to it, our friend Scotty can pull that and we can go through those. You can also use the form as well. I post a community question on our Facebook group, and let's go over there. Everybody's welcome to join us over there. It's a little big. Let me bring it in here for you just to see if you are living in an HOA situation, perhaps how you have dealt with it. And we can go and look at some of your answers here. Don, he's Whiskey 6 Charlie Zulu. He put a rooftop tower with a TH, and you're going to have to help me with some of these antennas. I don't recognize them.
That's a high gain, the TH3 GR, little 3-element tri-band antenna.
Put it up on a Sunday morning, didn't look back. The CCRs are not specific about antennas. They complained, and one other member of the board went to the FCC, got addresses of other hams in the area, one of which was notorious for RFI. He threatened to sue me. Nothing ever happened. I replaced it with a 45-foot of Rome, 25, about 10 years later.
I like that.
Tom says, I'm in on the HOA board, problem solved. Then again, I have a big dipole up in the HOA-owned trees, a VHF, UHF antenna sticking above another tree. And so he looks like he's like, I'm on the board, doing what I want to do. So I guess if you can't beat him, join him.
And change the rules.
And no one sees it. So that kind of introduces a bit of a stealth situation, looking at antennas in terms of what's good, different color wire. We can kind of discuss that as we go through. Kevin, he says he uses a gutter antenna for HF. Now, I haven't tried that. And I don't know. It seems to work, though, Steve. I mean, a gutter antenna, loading up the gutters. What would it mean to load up a gutter? I mean, alligator clip? How you doing it?
Just with the downspout, probably just a simple sheet metal screw into the aluminum gutter, and then a little bit of a ground radial system. I was just thinking about that the other day, and it's like, wow, that's kind of the original Wyndham. So you got the downspout that goes up, and then it hits the gutters and goes across the eaves there, and it's like, And if you feed it there at the bottom and put a tuner there, I started thinking, maybe you need to do an experiment. I don't have gutters, and so it would be kind of cool to try with a 1-to-1 balun and at the downspout, go into kind of a basic counterpoise radial system on the ground, feed it and see what you get, and then switch it out to a 4-to-1 balun and see the same thing and run some tests, sweep it with some sweep gear, and so it would be kind of an interesting experiment. No two would be the same because everybody's house is is different.
That's interesting. Maybe we should do like a challenge one day when the weather breaks in spring and try to get out there and load up our gutters and see what happens. I don't know. Could be crazy. Could be crazy.
Load up your gutters and see what you can do.
Yeah, maybe we'll do something like that. Paul, WD9GCO, the famous announcer for, he's so famous. I don't know. Oh, yes, Amateur Radio News. It's a joke, Paul. It's a joke. He's not watching anyway. Would do this show in his boxers, eating a bowl of cereal in the green room. That's kind of how he rolls. He says his case is different. He realized that the only way I was going to be able to convince people that ham radio isn't evil was to just join the board. He's now the president of his board. Got a lot of likes there too. So he's working. He uses his position to educate the board about ham radio and to pave the way for not only himself to install a vertical in the courtyard, but also make things easier for the future should any other hams move into our condos. All right, there you go.
Perfect.
Eric, I have a 40 through 10 meter end-fed half wave between the area of my home and garage out to a black pole attached to my storage shed. Unless you know right where to look from the street, the wire really isn't visible due to the distance involved. I have a ham friend who's in an HOA, and he has a hex beam, and it's just underneath the roof line, the pitch of the roof, so you can't see it. In other words, he was concerned that he'd only be able to work half the world because, if you think about it, as that beam is swinging, at some point it's going to swing and hit the house or, not physically, but the signal perhaps. He never had an issue with it. He worked the world. And in fact, he didn't put a big rotor at all. He would go out there, he could manually do it, and then he put on like a smaller television rotor. Kept it very simple, very lightweight pole, but it went up just below the pitch of the roof. And from the street, you couldn't see it. And old boy was working the world.
And his neighbors behind him and on the side probably didn't care.
No, he was in one of these, I guess you'd call it a cul-de-sac, where it sort of has a bit of a turn through it. You know what I mean? So the properties are a bit of a, they're not straight cookie cutter homes. They sort of had a little bit of bend as they went around this sort of area.
Kind of a pie shape.
And, and it was easier for him to sort of have those angles, trees. He had wire in the trees and nobody, it was really simple. And he was the first one that kind of got me going. And I said, I'll go the most complex route in the world, the heaviest back-breaking, neck-breaking pain in the ass I can find. Thank you for inspiring me. I should have gone very simple. But that was when you get stuck and you start to think maybe I can't do anything, there is, be creative maybe. But I don't know. The HOA, I guess, isn't just allowed to walk in your yard. Now, perhaps if they were able to walk in and go, what the hell is going on here? Maybe, but I don't think that would be legal, lawful, or any of that sort of stuff.
I have no idea. Typically, it's always been the HOAs that were more concerned with what was viewed from the public and what you did in your backyard. But, every HOA is different and how and what you sign up for. I mean, we sign up for when we move into an HOA. So
that's right. Let's spend a few more minutes and encourage you to go over to our Facebook group. It's an active group. We're growing every day. People there are friendly, and you can read all of this stuff. I would go into the search and look up community questions. And that's really should bring you up a list because I don't pin them. I kind of drop them down after we go so we can put up some new stuff for you. But you can read all this stuff. Will stay up there. Let's see. Scott says he, so far no run-ins. Unfortunately, I have to work in the cover of darkness, stringing up interior attic dipoles. And we can talk about that a little bit more. Steve found some really good sources. Some other hams have done some research on it. Let's see. My antenna, 4010 corner of the backyard up to the chimney with a small mast, virtually invisible. Many, many comments here have come in. So just kind of sharing them as we go. Let's see here. Go ahead. Yeah.
I know one of the common themes that I've seen overall talking about with HOAs and antennas has been pretty much stealth and trying to keep it low key so it doesn't draw anything. I mean, you throw up a 50-foot tower and put up one of these big monster step IRs, DB36 or whatever it is, that big monster trombone 3-element goes from DC to light kind of antenna, and that draws attentions. But simple low gauge black wire antennas just seem to disappear and people don't notice them, and it usually works out. So the common thing I've seen is stealth, and if you kind of go work under that as your main factor and thinking about it, then I think you'll be good, and just kind of work around. So
you found something from the Columbia Amateur Radio Club and Marty, AG3 Echo Kilo. Now this is right on the internet webs, the Wi-Fi nets, or whatever you would call it. Some stealth antenna. It's a presentation, and I like this. Some hams like to read. There's a lot of great stuff on YouTube, but sometimes it's nice to kind of sift through a presentation.
Yeah, part of the thing I found was, a couple, basically that's what they were, presentation PDFs, but a lot of information out there that I came across was manufacturers selling their product and I wanted to avoid that. It's like, let's look at the information. You make up your mind what you want to go, and then once you kind of figure out this is the solution I want to use, and then you can kind of figure out what manufacturer, if you're going to build your own or buy. So it's there's plenty of stuff out there.
Drop that resource into the chat for our friends here. I mean, flagpole antennas, that's an interesting one too. That's another one that I've never really tried, but I think, wow, that might be something where you're almost tricking them right in your front yard. Others, the magnetic loops are there. The Isotron, that we've just did a 30-day review of the 20 meters. They've got one for 40 and for 82. The one for 40 looks like a giant egg beater. But hey, man, it may work. It may work there. So that's an interesting resource. Any other thoughts on this, Steve? I'm just scrolling through.
Mobiles. I mean, guys will just set up a mobile and then just go out to the car and work HF that way. So it's get creative now. That mobile antenna is a little overboard.
Much might tip you over. It reminds me of when they throw the Brachiosaurus on top of the Flintstone-mobile at the end, and it just went over. All right, we're gonna check in here in a little bit with Scotty, see what's going on with the chat, see if any of our hamily are out there dealing with HOAs and what they're using. Want to do a quick mention though. I want to get you guys a 100-watt ID, and it's very simple to do. Let me go and move that off of the screen there for you. All right, there you go. So you can get your 100-watt ID at 100wattsandawire.com. Very simple to do. It's sequentially issued. We have over 5,000 of those in circulation now. You're also joining sort of the weekly reader. You're joining a mailing list on Thursdays. I put out something, let you know what's going on this week at 100 Watts and a Wire. You can also use your 100-watt ID to get yourself as part of the review system. The 30-day peer review system is based on members who have 100-watt IDs. And if you get lost, we even have a way that you can hit a key combination on your keypad and find your ID. And your name is listed here. Over every now and again, we'll update this list, and we're over 5,000 deep, so you can see all the members of the family listed there. But get yourself a 100-watt ID. Very simple and easy to do. All of it is free of charge. So there you go. Okay, let's move over to see if we can bring up Scotty and see what's going on inside the chat. Good morning to you, sir. Good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are. I don't know where you are. You could be in Singapore. My friends listen from all over. What's going on? Have you noticed anything happening in the chat?
Yeah. We got a couple things going on. A few folks dealing with HOA issues. Ricardo, we got BB, Kilo X-Ray 4 Tango, Quebec. Spike used to live with an HOA problem. And then so those guys are dealing with HOAs. And we also have a question from Mitchell Dickey about end-fed half-wave dipoles and the heights above ground they should be at.
Okay. Well, let's hold on to that. We'll do that one. We'll do that one in a bit. We've got a guest coming in here in a little while. I can't wait. I'm excited. About 6 minutes from now, Steve-O, we're going to feature our a radio club. I did this a couple years ago. Ooh. Yeah, man. And again, another form, but it's a way to send you right up into the studio here, and we can drop that down too. If you're interested, go to the description down below, and we'll put the form there. If you got a radio club that you're proud of, you're a member of, or a society, it'll be great. We'll catch up with David here in just a few minutes. In terms of HOA type stuff, let me go over real quick. Let's see. I can pull this up. You had another one from Dave, Kilo Delta 5 Foxtrot X-Ray, some HF antennas, especially stealth for HOAs, and this is another one. I can drop this down as a resource for you if you like. Put that in the chat here, and it just shows you. He's talking about dipoles, what you can do. Depending on your situation. Steve mentioned earlier that everybody's got a different situation. Some people don't have trees. Some people need to go vertical. Some are going to do flagpoles. Flagpole to me makes me a little nervous in the front yard. They see you out there dicking with this flag all the time.
Well, that's the thing. The key is fly with Old Glory, because if you don't fly Old Glory, then sometimes people will go, well, you got a flagpole. How come you're not flying a flag?
You're standing out there all the time. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Why are you always kneeling at the base of your flagpole? So.
Are you praying to the pole because there's not a flag on it?
Exactly. So.
Yeah. I've maybe put the flagpole in the backyard, but I totally get it. I don't know anything about it, but the article or the presentation talks about flagpole verticals, different kinds of verticals, different sorts of dipoles. Thanks for digging that up, Steve, and we'll make that available to you here as well. So, yeah, there you go. Lots of other verticals, lots of other things you can do. And I think when people get really, really stuck, it's like
the rain gutter right there.
Rain gutter. There's the rain gutter. Inverted L. Fence.
The fence antenna. Now that was the one that was kind of intriguing. I have worked a few guys that had fence antennas of all places on 75 meters, and they were in New Mexico and Arizona, and they just put their dipole and ran it along their wooden fence, and it was up like 5 feet, and that was it. And they were having a ball with it. So yeah, there's a picture of it. So just be creative, look around, think out of the box. Don't get too stuck in the box as far as, well, it has to be, here or there. Just put it up and see what happens.
All right, very good. All right, man. I think it's time. We're going to bring our guest in here and talk about the clubs and see what's happening here. We will mix with you in the chat, try to get some good things. I want to encourage you to get your questions in. Put a queue, and that way you can send a question about anything. And in about 10 minutes, Steve and I will try to tackle some of the questions that have come in. The form, if you'd rather be anonymous and not known, that's fine as well. If you don't mind as much, queue in the chat, and we'll deal with it as we go. All right, very good, Steve. I'm going to put you on the side just for a second here, and let's bring up David. There he is. Let's see. Good morning to you, sir. I guess it could be quite early where you are in beautiful California. Did you know what ice is? Outside of your drink, do you know what ice is? I knew it.
Not really.
How you doing today?
Unfortunately, it's doing well, thanks.
Good. Yeah, we're dealing with a little bit of it here, but it's normal. It's normal. I'm excited for you to tell us about your club. You've been rolling with me for a while. It's nice to put the face with your support for all these years. I really do appreciate that. David is Alpha India 6 Oscar United, and he is with the Edison Amateur Radio Network. And I can tell that you do a lot of work here because you're all over the website. Let's talk a little bit about the club. What's going on and what moves you to be moved to join that club?
Well, it's a club that was formed and is for primarily employees and retirees of the utility. And we're a big utility. There are 3 investor-owned utilities in Southern California. And it's kind of odd in one respect that there is such a club. But on the other hand, it's kind of normal in this area. TRW, another big company that has a long-running, really good club. And there's a lot of other big corporations that do. On field day, I'm always amazed that recognize the club calls, and they've got 14 stations on, and they've got a lot of people going. But this club's interesting. It was formed all the way back in 1938, and came to be really as a flood in Los Angeles that not too many people know about. Yeah, this is one photo. This is the baby city of Anaheim in Orange County, and the Santa Ana River is that line on the top, and you can see how it had just flooded down into the area. This is just Orange County. It impacted Los Angeles, Riverside as well, and it rained. First storm came in for 4 days, second storm came in for 10 days, and knocked out all power, communication, gas, everything. And the only way they could communicate was with 40 meter and 80 meter NVIS. So the company really stepped up. Another utility, a couple of utilities up north kind of stepped up. They were involved as well. And that's kind of how they were born. It's funny that they have some of the same issues that clubs have today. I want to read real quick a paragraph from like a 1938 bulletin that I found. It says, the prospective roll call at this date numbers 27. It can hardly be expected that 27 free-born Americans will all want the same thing. However, we are not assuming a number at Alcatraz, nor are we signing up for a hitch in the Navy. The intent of this thing is to get acquainted via the air and to become well enough acquainted with each other's frequencies, method of operations, signal strengths to be expected. There will be some value of each other and to our various communities in times of emergency. So it's just kind of funny that even back then, they struggled with the same things that we struggle with today.
What are some of the things that are working? And maybe you can look back, since you can see some of that documentation, things that they were doing back then that have carried on and that still work today.
One of those things is just the simple net. We've since those days, and actually one of the other primary people, Sidecar Steve on 100 Watts in a Wire here, was very
you called him
influential.
Out. You call him out.
Called him out. He's actually a former officer of EARN, so he's got his hand in this deeply as well. So, but right there. What really works is two things. One is this is the network that we have, and we're really, really blessed. It kind of echoes the Southern California Edison service territory, which is all the way up from the eastern side of the Sierra Nevada mountain range up in California, and then all the way down to the coast in Oxnard, Santa Barbara. We have a few that parallel on Interstate 10 that go from LA out towards Blythe. And then southern Nevada also. We've got some hydroelectric projects out there, and those were installed to kind of support that area. But we've got these 13 linked by microwave RF, and we've also restarted just in the past 4 or 5 years, NVIS 80 meter net once a week. So we kind of vary that with frequency and time as the propagation warrants, but just different ways to keep people in touch. We practice simplex because we've had, even though it's ironic that this is a club that's sponsored and kind of run by people at the power company. Power of the repeaters goes out just like everybody else's. Yeah, we've got some generator, but they only last a certain amount of time. So we've got to be prepared for other methods, and for NVIS HF, and for simplex as well.
Do you think that since it was basically established in 1938 because of an emergency situation, that field day is approached with a little more weight than just, say, a gathering, or has it sort of just become a social gathering?
It's a little bit of both. So we take a lot of pride in it, and we've lost a few members, prominent members, over the past few years, and they had some links to some very unique places. This was one of them actually. We had a gentleman who was a resident of this area, so we could reserve this hilltop park in East Los Angeles and just reach all over the world with it. It was really great. And we also had we had a 75th anniversary special station where we were at one of our hydro generation facilities, and got to operate from there, kind of near a mountaintop. So looking forward to that. I think this is 2022. Next year is our 85th year in existence, and so we're looking at starting to plan for something big for that. So
it's gorgeous.
We're a tiny little part of the company and barely recognized, but we also participate once in a while in some regional exercises with various counties and other California Office of Emergency Services groups as well.
How have you done with cultivating new, younger hams over the years?
That's been a challenge. We like to get a lot of the IT type communication folks, and we have an annual emergency preparedness fair. It hasn't happened, obviously, over the last couple of years, but we have a table there. We reach out. We've got our radios. We, sit in one of the EOC trucks that we've got, and we get some of the younger people. And we had a couple last year. I did an online tech class, and we got a couple new licensees. But it's been a challenge, just as everybody else.
So we're talking about the Edison Amateur Radio Network. It's W6SCE. In California, and David's joining us to talk about what's going on there. And let me bring in Sidecar Steve, because Steve was a member of the club. And can you tell the quick story about how they kicked you out, Steve? Or how did it go?
Yeah, I left the state.
Oh, that'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it. So just here's a. Let's see if it will come up.
Let's see
where in here, but that is myself on one of our towers. Well, when I was with the company, we were installing. So that was probably in the early 90s. So yes, and that's my Edison hat. So yep, I got some old pictures from climbing and doing 10 installs with the repeater system.
David, what's going on here that's notable to you?
This was one of we have our 3 seasons in California: fires, floods, and earthquakes. And this was Holy Gym Fire back in 2018. And the company has worked with the state and with our fire resources to put these cameras on a lot of our hilltop communication sites. And this is on top of Santiago Peak. And this was a fire that was originally probably seen on this camera first. And this is after it had gone up the hill and wrapped around the side. And you can see a couple fire trucks down there with their lights on. This is in the middle of the day, and you can see their lights because of all the smoke. It seemed like nighttime. But the comm sites were all spared up there. And it's just a great... you can look on that website. I think it's in conjunction with University of California. And it's just another resource that the utilities can use to help fight fires in California.
If you're curious about this club, you can check them out online. We can let you know where they are by doing a search. It's W6SCE.org. So if you're in that area and you want to learn more, by all means, go ahead and reach out and contact somebody. Or if you're curious, now, do you take folks that are not part of the utility? How does that work? Like, can a bald guy in St. Louis come and work on field day on the mountaintop with you?
Absolutely. Yeah, we
Cool.
take all licensed amateurs. There's no singling people out. We've got people who are friends of employees and just friends and people around the Los Angeles area. And we've got members all over from Northern California all the way down to San Diego. So everybody's welcome.
Beautiful. Thank you, David. I appreciate you for stopping by. I know it's a little early out where you are. Sidecar, but he's supposed to be up. The dogs get him up to go to the bathroom. But thank you so much for coming. Alpha, India, 6, Oscar, United. David, appreciate you so much and your continued support of the show.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. 7-3. All right, buddy. That's it. I didn't know you went there, and you had kind of...
Yeah, that was a surprise when you dropped it on me this morning. I was like, holy
Yeah.
smokes. So
Yeah, he reached out. He said, I got a little dirt on Sidecar. And I was like, cool, send it over on the back channel. We're not going to talk about it publicly, but I got all the information and pictures.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so the next negotiation should be a lot easier for me. Let's go and we'll do a quick chat. We're going to move into some Q&A type stuff. I got some stuff that came in through the form. Just a reminder, if you would like to feature your radio club, you can do so. It's easy. It comes right to me. It's a form, I know, but it will be guaranteed to be delivered, which is important. Scotty is posting some links down there. Thank you so much for our live audience who has joined us here this morning. The Edison Amateur Radio Network. So go ahead and check them out, poke around, and find out what's going on there. All right, so let me bring up Scotty here, and we will figure out if there's any questions, any cues. If you have a question, put Q in front of it here in the live chat. Stuff is coming in. We've got a few things to talk about as well today. Scotty, anybody sticking out? Any ruckus? Any wrestling around? What's going on in the chat? Uh-oh, did I muted you? I'm sorry. There you go.
He's not Pastor Joe.
Yeah, his mouth is moving, but
Pastor Joe just checked in on the chat too. Pretty tame in the chat today. Only question I've seen so far is from Mitchell Dickey. I don't have a call sign. He's asking about the best height for an end-fed half-wave dipole.
Just like your standard dipoles.
I see Timay is here. Timay is, and I always get this wrong. Is it Finland or Norway? Finland or Norway? It's coldest, one of the coldest places on Earth. Timay is here, so it's nice to see you as well. I guess the end-fed antenna is, I don't know. Everything is sort of just visiting. It's not a permanent install. Anything, any antenna is not permanent. But I mean, if you're out there doing some parks or something like that, I guess it's as high as you can get it, and maybe the same at home. Yeah, Steve?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, ideally, you want to get it a half wave up at the lowest frequency the antenna is at, but you might not have that situation. So for 40 meters, you're looking at 60 feet. So that's not possible. So get it up as high or reasonable as you can and go with it. And but for the higher, the better.
Finland. Timay, he's in Finland.
Finland house. He actually had Timay has a question. He's asking if there's anywhere where there's ham positive HOAs, any ham friendly HOAs. I'm not aware of any personally.
The Villages in Florida, believe it or not, has they have some policies and stuff like that. And I think in one of the PDFs. The one from the gentleman from Three Land had I think a link in there for the Villages as far as they have some policies on for ham friendly antennas. So look at the Villages.
All right, very good.
We're not trying to sell you to go down there, but hey, just check out their rules.
Right. Whatever. There's a lot of hams in Florida for sure. I would think they'd have to figure some stuff out. But I've heard some stories as well. It's you got to, I guess the best bet is to try to work with them. I mean, everybody doesn't want to say anything to them and then cause attention. But I kind of think like maybe it's good to kind of see. I don't know. Then you get the other side of people who are like, just move. You can't just move. That's not a good answer. That's not a good answer. So we have a couple of questions. Thank you, Scotty. We'll please put them in there. If you need to have a question answered here in the chat, go ahead and put it in there, and then put a Q in front of it. Scotty will pull it, and we'll try to address it as we go. Steve-O, I got some stuff here for us. You ready for this? Now, this is the part of the show where I don't. A lot of the parts of the show we talk about, but the Q&A type stuff, I don't show it to Steve. Some of these are more philosophical questions and approaches. Some of them are more technical. So we'll tackle them as best as we can. Here's a question from Da Man. He signed Da Man. I'm struggling with how to properly tune an antenna on the ground and in the air. So I guess we can break this into two parts here, Steve. We've got trimming the antenna and the ends to get it. A lot to kind of unpack here. But Da Man is interested in your perspective on how to properly tune an antenna. Let's start with on the ground.
Well, it depends on the antenna. So if it's a dipole on the ground, you're going to pretty much go by measurements, the physical layout, and start from there. So for a dipole, you want to have equal lengths on your legs, and because you won't be able to get a accurate reading on the ground because it's going to have an effect. Now, for vertical, obviously you want to test it there. So a lot will depend on what is the antenna. So, but let's just go with a dipole for the sake of the argument here. And so you just get your physical measurements done, and then you're going to put it up in the air. And now you're going to go as far as where is it tuned. So you're going to look at the band edges. You want to basically make a VSWR reading at the bottom end of the band, and then make another one at the top end of the band. And that will give you a range of where the antenna is going to be. So if the VSWR gets better as it goes down in frequency, the antenna is long. So you'll need to shorten it up. If the VSWR gets better at the top end of the band, then you need to lengthen it if you want to move it down. So it low, long, high, short, and then go from there. So it's a kind of a balancing act, and if having a antenna analyzer really helps, it simplifies it, because you don't have to come into the shack and then tune the radio, turn the radio on, make readings there. You just kind of use your handheld antenna analyzer, and that helps. So and then when you do make changes, especially on a dipole, if you're going to do them in increments of 6 to 1 foot, depending on which band you're working on. But if you're going to make a change at 6 feet or 6 inches at one end of the dipole, make it the equal length change at the other end, and so that it's symmetrical. Off center fed dipoles, you got to go by a percentage. If your long leg is 80%, then you make the change there, and then figure out 20% of 6 inches to the short leg, and make those changes. So ground, in the air, depends on the antenna, but it sounds like it's a dipole. So that's how I would do it.
I hope that helps you, Da Man.
I remember the man. He had some great barbecue. And
Man. Was that a food truck?
There was a guy in Bellevue that a gentleman that had a barbecue place, and he had a little pot where he had this hot sauce, and just a toothpick dab in the hot sauce would put you down. I mean, stuff was brutal. Damn. And but it was good stuff.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Unfortunately, we lost the man.
Oh, well, yeah. The man or Da Man?
The man.
He was the man, not Da Man.
Duh.
He was Da Man. Oh,
Delta Echo.
Dag, Delta Echo. All right. Sorry to hear about that. All right. We got another one here. Let's see if we can help another friend of ours in the Hamley. He's got a question here. I recently got my general, but I seriously don't know what to talk about on the radio. I don't even know how to start. This is from Jason. And
Jason, listen, buddy. If you want to start, come to our Sunday night nets on 40 meters. Somewhere around 7219, Sunday night, 9 p.m. East Coast time, 6 p.m. West Coast, 8 and 5.
What the hell?
I'm the 6 guy. I'm the 6 o'clock guy. And join in. But as far as what to talk about, whatever you want. Talk about whatever floats your boat. And I've always said, don't worry about all the ham geek speak and all this other stuff. Just be yourself. And if you want to talk about whatever is tripping your trigger today, then great. If the person on the other end doesn't want to talk about it, who cares? Somebody will. There's always people that want to talk about almost anything and everything, including me.
Let's try one out here, Steve. All right, Steve's just called CQ40, and I'm going to come back to his call. Okay, so I'm going to call him now. Kilo 0 Sierra Tango Hotel. I'm going to play the role of you here, Jason. W7UDI K0STH.
K0STH, W7UDI. Good morning. How you doing? Name here is Steve.
Hey, Steve. Name here is Christian, and boy, I don't know where you are, but we're sure dealing with some snow on the ground. Back to you.
Oh, cool. Where are you? I'm located here in Washington State, and we got snow on the ground too. So we had a 2-foot dumping here a few weeks back, but we still got at least a good 8 to 10 inches still on the ground, and things are warming up. But the snow is starting to melt. So how are you dealing with your snow? Back to you.
See, clearly, easy. Break the ice,
Easy peasy.
literally. With weather. It's easy. It's so easy to kind of get into it. And if you listen long enough, I think you'll find that that's kind of what people start off with. You know, where are you, your location, so you can talk a little geography, where you are. That's what Steve was like, where are you? I'm here. Weather is always, that's something you could mention in an elevator. And then you can kind of take it there. It's like, oh, okay, we've gone past the weather. What are your operating conditions there, Steve? Your audio sounds really nice today. What sort of radio are you running?
I'm using a Yaesu FTDX 101 Delta and feeding it into a homebrew double bazooka and just the details of that, and then go and back to you.
And here's one that Steve is a master at. And during our nets, you will almost hear somebody say, because they look for 100 watts in a wire net. So they come thinking that's what I'm working with. So I'm gonna go there. Steve may say, I'm working with this radio, I'm working with a little bit of power, and then the op may go, oh, well, I just got a dipole in a tree. It's like 15 feet up, and you can feel the operator kind of recoil a little bit into this situation where it's like, I don't know if I'm good enough. And Steve, instantly, what do you say to somebody who comes to you saying, I'm just kind of working with a dipole and whatever?
I'm great. I'm glad, what you got and working. It's working excellent. Sound good. And just encourage you to keep on going. It doesn't matter what you have. I don't care what power you're running. And how well you hear me, as long as I can hear you and I'm talking to you, that's all that matters.
You just kind of find your people, and maybe you find some nets that are very friendly, some sort of laid back. Some nets don't lend themselves to getting into these sort of rag chews, so maybe that's what you need to get in there just a little bit, chase a couple parks. But if you want to rag chew and you don't know where to start, try that. The weather, try the antenna, try the radio. And if there's any sort of chemistry in the conversation that you're having there, move into another thing of an aspect
topic
of it, of radio that you like, because you're both rooted in radio, so you can kind of stick in that vein if you want to, and maybe you set up another schedule to meet again. Maybe you meet your best ham radio buddy through that. But I hope that helps you a little bit, Jason. I know it's not easy, especially when you're shy and you're new and you hear a lot of established conversations already, and you're like, how are they going to accept me? It's like being back in the grade school where I don't know anybody. It's that kind of thing.
The key, Jason, is just be yourself. Just have fun. It's your hobby, and just be yourself, and everything will just fall in place.
All right. I think we have time for one more. This one could be a bucket of worms as we're approaching, but let's go ahead and try it. All right. This question is in from DB. A coworker has criticized me for wasting my time with amateur radio. How do I explain it better?
Ask him if he wastes his time surfing the internet or something like that. It's a hobby, so do what you want. And some people don't see the value in this hobby, and that's fine. That's their opinion and things like that. But me being kind of a smart ass at times, I just go fire right back at him and say, "Oh, you just wasting your time watching YouTube videos or visiting some other non-reputable websites, but or you just sit there be a couch potato and drink beer and watch TV all night. At least I'm doing something different in amateur radio."
And for me, I'm from Baltimore. That's what you'd call the high road. You snap back. I say, how would you like to eat lunch with a fork in your eye? So there's levels. There's levels of, but it sounds like you need to find your people, and your coworker there may not be your people. If somebody doesn't understand, and what if they came back and they were like, I like to weave baskets. You're not going to be the one that's like, weave baskets. What a dumbass waste of time that is.
Exactly.
So it's just.
Well, even my mom, she'll even ask me, and I've been a ham for 45 years now. And she goes, "You still doing that radio stuff?" And I go, "Yeah, Mom, I'm still doing it."
Mm-hmm. My mom was like, everybody needs something, like, okay. Oh, well, I hope that helps you, DB. I mean, we give you a little bit of a little joke in there, but I wouldn't burn another minute of my life dealing with anybody who couldn't just even politely roll off and go, "Oh, that's interesting," and move on about your day. Anybody that's trying to steal that much time or energy from you, you got no time for that. No time for that. All right, so that's great. Let's go over to see if we can catch up with Scotty here and see what's going on as we. Oh, where did he go? We can wrap up.
There he is.
What's
hey,
going
nice
on?
sound effect you got there.
You like that?
Yeah.
You like that? He sent me a bunch of fun stuff. It's nice. We can
lots of little whoosh and
little whooshings.
That much. I've been keeping an eye on the Discord, and somebody had a question there. They don't have a Google account, so they can't sign into the live chat. Did you want to go ahead and have a look see at that, or?
Oh, I don't know. Was there a question that? Yeah, I mean, if there's a question, we'll try it. I know it's. I almost know who this is. I think Steve probably knows who it is too.
It's Brett Glass.
Yeah, Brett wants me to. Brett wants me to wire everything for him. So I don't know, man. I understand. But he can't join our chat here, so he can kind of watch it. But you don't have to have an account. I guess you have to have an account in Google to make a comment.
He can comment in YouTube. So.
Yeah, I don't know. It's okay. But yeah, I can see our friends joined today. It's fun. It was a really cool show. And anybody else have anything? I see there's conversations with Joe and all that sort of stuff. Want to remind you, we've got another 30-day review coming out. We're going to be looking at a piece of logging software. So you'll have that next week. Over time, those bits get put out to YouTube. Currently, this week, I think it was this week, I put out the radio waves review. It's a peer review system, so we send out antennas to people. They spend 30 days with it and come back and tell us what they thought. And that way you can decide if that's something that you want to spend your money on or not. It's an $80 antenna. But those reviews are already on YouTube. If you want to see like the install, the bench test, people put the meter on, send in pictures like that. So all that's available. And we'll do that with a piece of software, which should be interesting. This is I think it's a $50 piece of software, and you get the full package. And looked interesting. That was a request or a suggestion by Pastor Joe, actually.
Nice.
And that's that. So that's coming up. Well, cool. Good deal, Scotty. I think we fooled him again, Steve. I think we fooled him again. See how fast an hour can go?
Oh, exactly.
Any plans for this weekend? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So just a reminder, everybody, we have a Discord group. So it's a very active group. We're just coming up on 600 members, and pictures, emojis, all kinds of stuff goes back and forth. It's a pretty active group, a lot of little subgroups, and the weather. We talk about the weather.
Talk about the weather. Makes people mental sometimes, but not us. We get up and everybody checks in, and that's one of those things in a community, though. You start to realize in ham radio when somebody's missing, and we've got a missing person. We didn't talk about this today, and I know we just got a minute, and I want to wrap up. But we got to talk to our boy in the Northeast, because Phil is 82 or 83 years old, and we haven't heard from him in several weeks, actually before Christmas. So it's almost time that we send out a health and wellness check on Phil. Yep. Check in with us on Sunday, 7:00. We pause to call for him. He's a military veteran. He's 82 or 83 years old. He checks in every week, and we haven't heard from him in probably a month. And now it's starting to get to the point where I'm a little concerned. But that's a little inside stuff. But check in tomorrow night, 7:00 Central Time. We kick off the net. Steve will be there. If Uncle Paul's not running, I think he canceled his trip. I was going to run the first hour, but if he's back, then I'll just relay. But that's what's going on. Anything else, guys? Anything else?
No,
that's it.
I think that's about it.
Then that's it. That's it. Stay on the warm side of the door is what they say, and by all means, if you can, please try and stay above the noise. Thanks for everybody who came by on the live show. Our friends listening on as subscribers to the podcast, come on Saturday mornings and tell us what you think. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Scotty. 73, everybody.
73, everyone. Catch y'all next time. Hear you on the net.
To join the 100 Watts in a Wire community, visit 100wattsandawire.com.